Jackie Robinson had his number retired by Major League Baseball. Like, for instance, the Houston Astros sent me, I don't know why they put my name on the back, but all the teams don't have no name on the back, but they have 42 on the back of the jersey. And so it represents the jersey of Jackie Robinson. And so I have a couple of Dodgers jerseys. So the only time you ever see me wearing non-Astros is when, on April 15th, when I wear the Jackie Robinson jersey. And the interesting thing to me is, it hit me today that, again, you have all this attention on this day. You have so much focus on April 15th, where it's a celebration of Jackie Robinson breaking the color barrier. And it's an important day for us to remember. But here's the issue. Folk don't talk about who Jackie Robinson was playing with before he got signed by the Dodgers. We played with the Monarchs, Kansas City Monarchs. If you ask people what was Jackie Robinson's number when he played for them, they can't tell you. And so you have all of this attention on, obviously, breaking the color barrier. But I really think we have to look at this just a little bit different. Because if tomorrow is deemed Jackie Robinson Day in Major League Baseball, let me be real clear, this is not an attack on Jackie Robinson, a phenomenal human being. Obviously, Hall of Famer, All-Star. But what I need people watching to understand this is that if tomorrow is the celebration of Jackie Robinson becoming the first black player in Major League Baseball, then April 14th should also be commemorated as the death of the Negro Leagues. I told you all about Gerald Horne's book called The Rise and Fall of the Associated Negro Press, Claude Barnett's Pan-African News, and the Jim Crow Paradox. This is the actual book. This is the actual book right here. The key I want you to focus on is the Jim Crow Paradox. See, black folks fighting for equality, wanting to show we can do just as good as somebody else. We could play ball. We could do all this sort of stuff. And they called it the Major Leagues. It was called the Major Leagues. But the reality is the Major League talent was already in the Negro Leagues. It was called the Major Leagues because white folks owned it. So because white folks had more money, they had better stadiums, better uniforms, they had better travel, they stayed in better hotels, they had better food, they paid better salaries. That's what made it major. And so you had this euphoria among black people when Jackie Robinson made it. It was like, man, Jackie made it to the Major Leagues. But Jackie was already a Major League star. If you do the study, Dizzy Dean, white baseball player, he often played in the offseason with the Negro Leagues, and he said there was way more talent in the Negro Leagues than in the Major Leagues. But black folks it was like all around the country. It was like folks were listening to the radio and they were clamoring, but Jackie, because it was about, man, we about to show those white folks who we are, but they already knew. If you look at everything in American history, black people were killing it in every phase. It was simply racism, Jim Crow, white supremacy, keeping us out of those systems. But while we were fighting to break down those systems, it was actually leading to the breakdown of our systems. That's the Jim Crow paradox. So you had Negro Leagues teams that were owned by black people. How many Major League teams were owned by black people? None. To this day, do you have a majority owner of Major League Baseball team who's black? No. One African American who owns an NBA team, Michael Jordan, who bought it from Bob Johnson. No African Americans own a Major League football team. So what did we give up to be able to play with white folks? And again, This is not a diss on Jackie Robinson. What I'm trying to get us is to think a lot differently in terms of how we perceive these things, in terms of how we see us getting better. So when I was getting dressed, I was sitting here saying, what shoes am I going to wear with this Kansas City Monarchs jersey? Now, I could have worn these white Adidas. Could have worn these. I got these at the Cynthia Entertainer Golf Tournament. These are Stan Smith personalized Adidas. Or I could have wore these red and white Adidas I normally wear my Houston Rockets attire. Okay, so I could have worn any pair of these Adidas. But I said, no, I'm not gonna wear these, because Adidas ain't paying me to wear these. The folks at Rock Deep, who we featured a couple of weeks ago, these are one of the pair of shoes they sent me. So I'm wearing these athletic shoes. They are red and gray from Rock Deep, black owned. Now just listen to what I just said. I could have worn these. We don't own these. These are not black owned. But we will stunt in some Adidas and some Nike. Oh, we'll rock them. But they're not black owned. See, we give up a lot when we desire something white folks got. I am not suggesting that we should not have torn down Jim Crow. What I am suggesting is that what we have to learn in the 21st century is that we as black people cannot be so locked into white validation that we actually are ending our very institutions in order to be comfortable and get acceptance from them. Y'all just heard Jasmine Koenig talk about folk wouldn't cover the story, but I took a phone call and put her on the air because those were black-owned platforms. You just heard the doc talk about how these white newspapers won't even respond to the study because they're embarrassed. They don't have real diversity. So what do? Basically shut the study down. We're not even going to respond, and then we're not going to talk about it. So as we are thinking and operating as black folks, we really have got to change our view of how we spend our money, what we watch, what we listen to, what we wear, because every decision that we make in terms of what we wear, what we watch, what we listen to, we literally are making other people rich. I have said to you, America has always loved black people because they love the fact that we have made them money. We made them money during slavery. Oh, let's be clear. We made them money when Jackie Robinson went to the Dodgers. Because Branch Rickey saw 50,000 black people in Yankee Stadium watch the Negro players play, and they said, yo, we could create an entire new fan base. And so what do you think happened? That's exactly what happened. Why do you think all of a sudden all of these mainstream white outlets are now having all of this black content? Do y'all understand why Lifetime and we are doing all these black movies all of a sudden? It ain't because they're interested in our stories. It's because our black eyeballs will follow, which means the ad dollars follow. $322 billion spent every year on advertising, and black-owned media gets 0.5 to 1% of $322 billion. How many billions are spent on athletic shoes? And we have made Phil Knight a mega billionaire. We have made people who own Nike stock extremely rich. But how many black folks have gotten rich? All we have to show for it are some tattered Nikes in the process. Oh, yes, I appreciate I appreciate seeing black folks on mainstream television, and we fought for that. But I will never, ever say, let's give up what's black owned just to have somebody who's on ABC, NBC, CBS. See, y'all, the reason I understand this because I told y'all, when I got hired at CNN, they wanted me to leave Tom Joyner Morning Show. They asked me to leave Tom Joyner and TV One, asked me to give up my speeches and my books. I said, oh, no, that's not happening. In fact, they were upset with me because I turned down my own little segment on the Situation Room with Wolf Blitzer. They came to me and they said, now they wouldn't give me a show. They wouldn't give me a daily show or a weekly show. They said, we're going to create a segment. So we want a place, so your fans know how they can watch you every single week. And they said, so you're going to have a segment on the Situation Room with Wolf Blitzer. And I said, oh, well, that's pretty interesting. I said, so cool. I can sort of incorporate when I'm traveling around the country, because a lot of times I'm giving speeches. The governors there or mayors and CEOs. They say, oh, no, you can't do that. Because that's going to be too costly. You got to be in the studio. I said, hold up. Y'all want me to stop giving speeches and come off the road and do a segment and y'all ain't replacing the money? They said, precisely. I said, ain't going to be no segment. Let's see, now some of y'all watching will go, Roland, what's wrong with you? You should have taken that segment. I was making $500,000 speaking. Why in the hell would I give up $500,000 for a segment that they were going to be selling and making money off of me and not increase my pay? Hell, y'all turn the money down. Because I did not believe in white validation. And when they asked me to give up all my black media platform, I said no. I said, well, you'll give me a 5-day-a-week show. What I'm suggesting is this here. We should always celebrate breaking down Jim Crow. We should celebrate when we get a black CEO. But I'm not just going to celebrate a black CEO if that black CEO not breaking down some damn walls. I'm not going to celebrate somebody black being on a board of directors who is not using their power to ensure that other black folks are getting stuff. If they are simply enriching themselves so they can spend more time on Martha's Vineyard, well, damn it, all you doing is helping yourself. You ain't helping everybody else. No, that ain't what this is all about. At some point, we've got to be smart enough to understand that one person getting the check don't mean we made it. It means they made it. And we make a mistake when we as black people take our dollars and our eyeballs and our attention and we make other people mega billionaires and we are still broke and starving for information. And we say, well, man, I wish we could have had that. Well, had you watched, had you donated, had you spent money black, had you bought black, had you invested black, it could have happened. So when I hear people say what we should be doing, I always say, what are you doing? So yeah, I'm gonna have my Dodgers jersey on tomorrow. But here's what I suggest, y'all. Don't just get you a Jackie Robinson Dodgers jersey. I want you to go to the Negro Leagues website, the museum, and buy you a Kansas City Monarchs jersey. And I want you to wear your Monarchs jersey on April 14th. And then wear your Jackie Robinson jersey on April 15th. But don't just make money for the Dodgers. You also make money for the Negro League Museum that's trying to keep our history going. This, Greg, is what we have to get people, how we must, when I keep saying how we must reprogram Black America, this is what I'm talking about.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And that was, as usual, a brilliant breakdown and so poignant as we sit on the eve of Jack Roosevelt Robinson playing for the Brooklyn Dodgers. It is so poignant for any number of reasons. I mean, the black press, I'm glad you held up Gerald's book. You know, yesterday, actually day before yesterday, I was telling my students at Howard, because actually Robinson played in an exhibition game for the Dodgers on the 12th. So that was kind of like the soft open. And I shared with them an article from one of the papers that you used to run, the Chicago Defender, and not the Pittsburgh Courier, the New York Amsterdam News, that ran a story in April 1947, and the headline read, "Robinson becomes the first Negro in professional baseball since Moses Fleetwood Walker." The black press reported at the time Moses Fleetwood Walker, who played in 1884 for the Toledo Blue Stockings, was the first black man to play in professional baseball. Now, here we are in 2022, and people said, wait, Jackie Robinson wasn't the first? You had to check the black press. It was those black press guys, the sports writers that pushed to get Robinson in the Dodgers in the first place. It is so poignant that you talk about the Negro Leagues. And like you say, like you, I've been at 18th and Vine. I don't go to Kansas City without going to 18th and Vine and to the Negro League Museum and the Jazz Museum. The great Andrew Rube Foster, the genius who was not only a great athlete, but a great businessman who put together the Negro Leagues in 1920 in Chicago. This was the biggest business in the country, as you say. And to see the Kansas City Monarchs across your chest, brother, and to understand that you and Kaufman, once the Kansas City team got another team in Major League Baseball, named that team the Royals in tribute to the Monarchs. All the professional sports teams in Kansas City named after the Monarchs in that, the Royals, the Chiefs, the Kansas City Chiefs, the Kansas City Kings when they had a basketball team. The Monarchs were the platform. And then finally, at a stadium that is no longer there, right there on Georgia Avenue where Howard Hospital is, used to be Griffith Stadium. The Washington Senators couldn't draw flies. But as you said, when Clark Griffith and them boys saw the Negro League All-Star Game and saw the great Homestead Grays, Coo Papa Bell and Josh Gibson and Judy Johnson and Buck Leonard and Ted Double Duty Radcliffe, Smokey Joe Williams, and them boys winning the Negro League World Series, they said, shit, we need to make some of this money. They would rent out those stadiums. Branch Rickey, you ain't no hero, bruh. You picked up some bargains on the cheap and you knocked us out of the business to begin with. So yeah, I'm with you, brother. We need to know our history. And the black press is at the center of that history because they've always known.
I've got, coming up next, Phyllis Randall. We're going to talk about how the right is attacking her. And I had to check that fool last night. Reese, you always talk about this. You always call out the blue check black folks, black celebrities on Twitter who love to retweet clips of mainstream news shows. And hell, a lot of times they saying stuff we talked about 2-3 weeks earlier.
Well, you know, I was actually going to tweet about this today because I've been seeing, you know, it was trending about BET and, you know, we could have had this, that, and the other. And it trips me out because I see so often black folks complain about what we ain't got when we have all those things. We just don't have them on the white networks. We just don't have them on the traditional formats like cable TV, as you expertly broke down the demise of Black News Channel, which people were up in arms about after it was gone, but didn't watch it while it was on there because it was only getting 4,000 views an hour or something like that, which is less than what you get on YouTube. So I challenge once again, like I've done many times before, we have the power to validate ourselves. We just don't use it because we want the white gaze to validate us and then they looking at us to validate them. So it's real ass backwards. Why don't we spend the energy and the cool factor and the capital and the money that we have, which makes everything pop, and make our own shit pop? Then we don't have to ask for permission. Then it's not a thing when Don Lemon, no shade to Don Lemon, or whoever else on CNN or one of these other networks say boo our way. We have the power and we're doing it. Just look at the people who ain't necessarily the big names and you'll find what you're looking for.
Terrain, last point here. Last year, black people made Clubhouse go from nothing to a $4 billion valuation. I keep saying, we can make fan base sexy. Started by Isaac Hayes III. Again, we made Nike a multi-billion-dollar company. We can make Rock Deep a multi-billion-dollar company. We have got to stop making other folk rich and learn to make black folks rich.
I'm going to say something now that's probably going to upset a few people, but it needs to be said.
Well, the show called Unfiltered, so we used to it.
The cold hard truth is, there is a mentality in a lot of our people in America that something that we make is less than something that white people make. And there's this mentality in black culture that says the white man's ice is colder. You may not hear people say that outright, but they prove that by their actions and their spending and how they spend. The other part of that is some of it is a lack of knowledge of your own history. If you go back and look at the history of the Black press, and there was a very excellent documentary that came out a few years ago called The Black Press, where they did a complete breakdown of the Black press from 1790.
Done by Stanley Nelson. It's called Soldiers Without Swords.
That's it. There has always been a Black infrastructure, whether it was Black doctors, whether it was Black nightclubs, whether it was Black record labels, whether it was Black newspapers and Black press. We've always supported our own, and we always saw the worth in our own. But it seems like, and Malcolm X talked about this, the minute the ink was dry on that civil rights bill, it felt like Black people got as far away from their own culture as they could to go throw money at white people or throw money in their hotels that they would have got kicked out of 2 years beforehand. That we have to get back to the idea that what we make is valuable, and we have to get back to knowing what our own power is. I mean, the examples are there. Look at what we do on social media. Everything that happens on social media does not pop unless Black people get on there. Like you said about Clubhouse, Twitter would be MySpace if it was for Black people getting on there and chopping it up every day. That happens with a lot of things. That happens with like music. Look at hip hop. Look at all the record labels that Black people created, like Def Jam and Luke down in Miami and all these other places that did this stuff. And they did it like selling out of the trunk, which is the old cliche. But we have the power. We have the economic power to be able to do this stuff. We just have forgotten how to do it. We've had to reclaim that back, or we're going to end up lacking again for another 10 more years.
And that's why we do what we do. All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment. Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punches!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay Black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?